Welcome to the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, where you will learn top strategies from world-class real estate investors, both large and small. Why not? Tune in and get started today. Hey, what's up, all my real estate peeps? This is Brian Lucier with Why Not Real Estate Podcast out here on Eagle Beach. And I'm letting you know that this episode was so good. Matt Swierk brought so much to the table, gave us almost 2 hours of content that we're going to split this into two episodes, Volume 1 and Volume 2. So what you're going to watch here is Volume 1, and we'll have Volume 2 up there for you shortly. And I really appreciate you being here today. I know there's a long show and a lot of good stuff in here. So I really appreciate you being here to share it with us. Hope you enjoy Episode 1, Volume 1. Hey, what's up, all of my real estate peeps? This is Brian Lucier of the Why Not Real Estate Podcast, back with another episode where we interview world-class entrepreneurs and real estate investors, giving you their tips, tactics, and techniques on how to be a real estate investor, a successful real estate investor, and why not get started today. So today on our show, I have a long-time companion of mine, business person in my past, actually sold some of our buildings when we were disposing of properties. He is the man, the myth, the legend, and still comes up on my phone as Superman because he was able to jump tall buildings, beat that locomotive, all of that stuff. He was able to close so many deals for us. Truly grateful, but let me introduce him to you. Our guest today embellishes leadership, ambition, drive, and above all else, boldness in action. He leads from his heart with confidence and assuredness. He's completely dedicated to helping others understand their infinite potential. He exemplifies sincerity, encouragement, and humility. His earnest and calming demeanor when coaching clients leads to significant changes in their lives. His ability to impact others for their betterment due to the cornerstone of trust he establishes is truly astounding. He is a self-reliant, intentional creator from the earliest stages of his life. He is remarkably talented and gifted professional. He has founded and owned multiple businesses, both autonomously and in conjunction with his wife and business partner, 안녕하세요, Yunri. We love Yunri. She's a firecracker in her own. Our guest also has received numerous professional accolades, top recognition, and multiple awards of achievement. Team building, operations development, and management are some of his strongest and greatest strengths. His fast-tracked expertise in the grasp of the real estate industry led to his becoming the recipient of the Rookie of the Year Award, Northeast Association of Realtors, in 2019. This award was granted during the height of a highly competitive, historically challenging real estate market at the beginning of COVID. So that was a huge award to be able to pull that off. His personal and evolutional is continuously flourishing due to his ability to motivate himself and others. His integrity, unwavering willpower, and decisiveness as to who he is and what his future holds are the foundation of his exceptional relationships and partnerships. His ability to mentor, guide, and facilitate change for the betterment has grown exponentially in recent years. He is fun-loving, brilliant, and wise beyond his years. I had to put that in there. A devoted, loving, and dedicated family man. He is husband to Yunri and father to two beautiful and incredible daughters, Yuri and Yuner. He works with his clients both locally, nationally, and when he's not on safari, he resides in Massachusetts. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to the show co-founder and coach of the Elevated Human Experience, co-founder and experience expert of Elevated Safari Experience, my friend, colleague, Superman, Mr. Matthew Swierk. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brian. I feel like there should be balloons and cheers going off. Woo! I'm listening to that and I'm saying, oh my gosh, it sounds like an interesting person. I can't wait to meet him. I'm like, wait, that's me in the camera. So I want to just, again, thank you so much for allowing me to share this space with you. It really is an honor, Brian. And I want to congratulate you for not only the successes of this show, just the successes that you've had, in your career. And what I meant to tell you is I drive by your office probably 4 times a week because my daughter goes to school in that community. So it's really amazing to be here with you right now. And I'm just so excited. I'm so giddy. I'm so excited.
Matt, where on the planet Earth are you today?
Today I'm in Lunenburg, Massachusetts.
Lunenburg, Massachusetts. Okay, we are hailing today's show from Eagle Beach in Aruba. So we are transcontinental on that. You're on one continent in a different country. I'm in a different country over here. Something I did not have in your bio when we were having the green room conversation, it didn't have anything about your real estate accolades and your holdings. And you were rattling off some numbers to me that I was like, oh my God, Matt, when did all this happen? Because if you don't mind, could you just kind of like roll back the last couple of years here and tell us where you were, where you got to, and where you are now in your real estate holdings?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I know that as you read some of my current experiences, there's probably a lot of confusion of how does this really tie into real estate? And I would keep me in line, Brian, because I can you wind me up and I can just go. So please put the bumpers on when necessary, and I'll appreciate that. We started off back in. I'm sure you do this as well. You think about how old were your kids, and now you try to figure out where they were, what time things were, and their ages. We got into real estate really because we were running a small business, and we decided that after we had our first daughter, we said, okay, we need to really think about expanding our income. And the idea of passive income came into the radar screen. And so instead of really putting all of our energy into the current business, which was a dry cleaning business, we decided to take the leap and we bought a 3-family in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. So we did that for about a year, and that was literally about 10 years ago. We had that one property for about a year. Then we said, we really love this. How do we start getting more properties? And then we started flipping houses, and from there started to buy more rental properties. And we really took the jump, I would say, about 3 years ago is when the hockey stick took off for us. And that's where my current experience comes into play. A lot of investors will start off and have a goal of scaling. And we start to look at, we'll buy another 3-family, we'll buy a 4-family, we'll buy a 5-family. And at the time, we said, there's no way we're going to really scale this business unless we make a mindset shift and start to look at larger portfolios to really take a quantum leap and jump the rungs of the ladder. And it was a scary process for us, instead of looking at analyzing 5 units, going into look at, 60 units, 100 units. And the quantum leap really took, Brian, in starting to purchase portfolios that were 100 units, 120 units. So up until last year, we had accumulated about 650 doors, either that we owned individually or through syndication or partnerships. And due to some of the appreciation with the market and some of the exit strategies, we dropped down. Right now, we have about 550. And in a couple of weeks, we're selling off 109 of those units. And it's been a really interesting ride that has helped us to really create a lifestyle by design and have the freedom and flexibility that we wanted with this concept of the passive income.
I'm so glad I asked that question because I think that is really important for our guests to know. I mean, you started with a triple, got the taste, got your feet in the water, started to buy smaller. You realized the potential in buying these portfolios, which we're going to unpack. I'm sure there's going to be stories. And yeah, I'm not going to put a leash on you on this show. This is your show and it's your story. You can lead us wherever you want to bring. I'm just going to ask questions and I'll follow the trail. So,
Perfect.
yeah, this.
Buckle up, Brian. Here we go.
All right. So, if it's okay with you, I'm going to get started. You may have given us a little bit of this answer, but I always ask the guests on the show, can you tell us a little about your background and what you used to do before becoming a real estate investor?
Yeah, so as a little kid, I always wanted to own my own business. My path, really started off when my dad turned 50, and he was working for a medical device company, and they said, "Okay, here's the situation. You can go your own way, or we're going to relocate you out to Minnesota, and you can take a pay cut and start life there." So in always wanting my own business and then watching my dad be in corporate America, for me, becoming an entrepreneur was the way. And I've had one corporate job. I worked with Enterprise Rent-A-Car when I first came out of college. And then from there, I didn't like the politics. I love the fact that I was taking a commission off the branch. So the more energy I put into it, the greater I pushed the profit, the more I was getting paid on that. And I really appreciated that my efforts were being recognized by my drive. And that led me into creating a direct sales company where I went door to door selling coupon booklets. And from there, I met my wife. It was interesting, Brian, because I shut down the direct sales company that I had multiple offices in Connecticut, in Rochester, New York, north of Boston. And I was putting in probably 95 hours a week, and the return was not there. So we got involved. I had some money off to the side. My wife and I were, kind of goofing around a little bit. Her parents, being Korean, said, okay, they looked at the economy. They said, things that don't look that good. We think you should get into the dry cleaning industry, which is where they, found their passion. And we followed their footsteps. And that led us directly into our start into real estate. Excuse me. What I really appreciate is anyone that has their license as a real estate agent. I was with Keller Williams for a long time, and I always appreciated how Gary Keller said that you're on the front lines of finding deals. And if you do not have the ability to structure deals, of course, it's a win-win situation for the seller. This is an industry that most people develop wealth from. And I believe that real estate is a key with any type of wealth building. I've been involved with all different types of things, whether it's investing in gold, investing in Forex, investing in movies. I mean, the list of alternative investments goes on and on and on. Real estate really is the keystone and the cornerstone. So what I found was interesting is I came into the agent space having a background as an investor. So I really felt that for me, I had the upper hand on how to advise clients that they were now becoming real estate investors, not necessarily going out to buy the 3 units or buy the passive income. Most people, when they buy a home, even though it's not their asset immediately, there's a process, of course, of paying down that mortgage. That is the first investment in real estate. And when we were able to consult people of saying, hey, if you have a couple kids, maybe this is a good time to start understanding how can you play the money game and start to roll some of that money to get into investment properties that, if you had the ability that you could buy a 3-family and then you could pass that on to one of your children, that really sets them up for the future, hoping that they're not just going to cash that in and take the money, Brian, right? Because we know the trend line of real estate, yes, it may drop. There is a historical trend that is on the upswing. So becoming a real estate investor really was I would say, the best decision that we ever made. And yes, it was scary. Yes, I'll tell you right now that when my wife came up with the idea of investing, I said, no, I do not want to get the 2 o'clock in the morning phone call. I don't want to change the toilets, and she said, well, I'm going to help. I said, I'm not going to let you take a phone call and you're going to go do that in the middle of the night. Like, this is going to fall on my shoulders. And I broke through that fear, and I absolutely loved, being in that space. And I have to thank you, Brian, because you and your wife have been so instrumental in us, creating a solid foundation of how we were going to set up this business. And really looking at, in my world, now we've created this tagline of a win-win-win. So when we do anything, it's got to be a win for you. it's got to be a win for me, and it's got to be a win for humanity. And what I didn't realize is that's how you set up your company when I first met you. And the beautiful business that you created of really putting, and I remember like clear as day, they weren't tenants, they weren't renters, they were residents. And you wanted people to really come into, what my little tagline there, I'm an experience expert, right? That's in the travel space of bringing people to on safari in Africa. You were an experienced expert in the space of housing, and your philosophy and your business model really helped us and opened our minds to look at it in a whole different way. So I'm always grateful for all those times we spent. And what was it? Was it Il Forno of breaking bread and having some
Oh,
amazing conversations?
oh yeah, 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 yeah. Well,
Yeah.
first, I'm not worthy for all the accolades. This is your show. Um, but thank you. And I'm blushing a little bit here. You mentioned a few things, and I'm taking notes. I'm already on page 2 for my notes here.
Hmm.
So there's a couple of things I want to just open up the curtain on. Um, Before I ask the question, you had said that you were talking to us about our businesses, and I remember vividly, like I'm visual and I can just remember what I see. I was laying tiles on a porch at 152 Pearl Street in Gardner. First time I ever spoke to your wife, Yun Ri. And mind you, I'm laying down tiles. And I think I was on the phone with her for like 30, 45 minutes. And she was just boom, 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 question after question. And I was intrigued. It's like, okay, I like this girl because she's asking all the right questions. I can scrape up the grout. I don't care about that. I can fix it. It's a property. But this is important. And I remember talking to her, and she was kind of like on the fence, should we flip? Should we buy and hold? Should we do this? And I'm buy and hold all day long. I love buy and hold. For me, wholesaling or flipping, that's a job because you finish it, you got to start the next one. So I remember that first conversation with Yun Ri before I even met her. And she just made that impression on me. So if you're watching this, Yun, kamsamnida, had a really great time there. I do want to jump back. When I asked the question, what got you from where you were to real estate? You mentioned that her parents in the dry cleaning business got you turned on to real estate. We kind of just jumped across that chasm a little bit. So what was that message there? What did her parents say? What did that look like? How do you get from running a dry cleaning business to the conversation going, you should invest in real estate? How did that happen? What were the words in between there?
So, all right. So that you misinterpreted that they were not the ones that had us get into real estate. But there's an interesting connection that you bring this up. It was so the dry cleaning industry. I'll give a very quick background on this. We owned a plant, and that's where all the cleaning takes place, all the pressing, the stain removal. That's the operation. And where we were located in this very small town in North Central Mass, the labor pool was very limited. So really to expand, it was go out, buy another plant, that's going to, have this big operation, or create drop stores, which would be, a little, in a strip mall, and there's really just, enough space for the clothes. So to expand, it was open up drop stores, start to get into the delivery routes. That was way back when Zoots was a company. I can't believe I just brought that up. And when they, as this is interesting because they were very big believers of the American dream and working for themselves and getting into dry cleaning, which was heavily run by the Korean culture before the Greeks really had the hold. And they didn't want us to get in the industry. They said, we work really hard. They said that, they don't get to take vacations. They didn't want us to fall into that same trap. They owned a multifamily on Bottell Street in Fitchburg.
That's right.
And they had very, very bad experiences because they never joined the Northern Worcester County Landlord Association and learned how to screen tenants and make sure that you have a process. So it was more of, this looks like a nice person. Let's get them in and have them as a tenant. Exactly, Brian. So we will stay away from those conversations. But I think it was really the drive to I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard of the book, The E-Myth.
Oh yeah.
And right, so that's a cornerstone, another cornerstone book. So we owned a full-time job. We were not entrepreneurs. And I think that's where they were afraid of us being locked into this business that was great for them, did not give them as much time freedom as they wanted, gave them a lot of financial freedom, didn't give them the time freedom because they literally were in the shop from Monday through Friday, 6:30 in the morning until 7:30 at nighttime. And then Saturdays would be from 7:30 in the morning until 5:30 at nighttime. We used to call, there you go. We used to call that the half day because we would get out, a little bit early. And literally Sunday was the day to get everything done. So when we brought up the idea of getting into real estate, they immediately, from the outside looking in, said they knew that this was going to be the right step for us. And eventually we would get out of the shackles of the dry cleaning industry. So, when I think about where we were at the time when we sold off the cleaners, we really were at critical mass because we were there, 6 days a week. We had two children that were 3 and 9 months. We owned, at that time, we owned 10 doors. It was spread across 3 properties that I was personally managing.
Yeah.
And we were flipping properties, probably doing at least 10 flips a year. And then, we had an opportunity to get into the agent side of things. And Yun said, "Man, I think you'd love this because, you're working with people's emotions." And I said, "I can't even deal with my own emotions, never mind someone else's." But I said, "You know what? Let's take the leap of faith." And I think that's one of the great things, especially when people are nervous about getting into this industry. Take the jump. You'll develop the wings along the way. And as long as you have the belief and you surround yourself with the right people that have the tools, the resources, the mentorship, and more importantly, Brian, and I shout this as loud as I can, you got to pay to play. So when you're looking for all the free resources out there and you're going to figure it out on your own, yes, you will get there. How long is it going to take you? So when I talk about investing in real estate, and that's one of the biggest investments I've made, yes, because of the dollar amount from what we've accumulated, the next category down is investing in myself. And we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars through courses, through one-on-one coaching, through group coaching, because it is true. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. So when you're around people that have a can do and we will figure it out and have that experience, you cannot go wrong latching arms with people that are looking to have the same values, morals, and ethics that are with you. And we're just in the space that we're really looking to change the world one person at a time, whether it's through the personal development or through the travel space. And like I said, it all stems from that decision of saying, yes, we're going to buy this 3-family.
Wow. You guys have really crushed it since Il Forno's, like, and I gotta say, Il Forno's has the best garlic bread in the world. When I
I
go
was
back,
just thinking about the bread, Brian. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
well, when I go back to Massachusetts, I'll grab my mom and her boyfriend. It's like, where you guys want to go eat? She says, "You pick." I says, "Okay, we're going to Il Forno's." And
Yeah.
the owner up there, he's just, it's a wonderful place. We are not in any way affiliated with Il Forno. There's not a paid promotion or anything like that. It's just really, really good Italian food. But yes, you got to pay to play, absolutely. And we did the same type of thing, hundreds of $1,000s on all these courses. And you did mention the E-Myth, so I just want to kind of pull that up there. I got it on the audio. CD number 6 is where really that's where the rubber meets the road there. So you did all this, you figured it out, you did the multifamily. I don't want to jump ahead of myself here, so I'm going to jump back into the question. I'm sure this is going to lead down other rabbit holes, which I'll be happy to follow you with a carrot. So you talked about your in-laws. Were there any other influences? You grew up entrepreneurial. Were there any other influences along the way where you thought, hey, there might be something with this real estate? Anything else influence you to become a real estate investor?
Well, I think it goes back to, some of the influential books, right? And when it comes to this idea of entrepreneurship, or I would say thinking outside the box. I'll point you over here on my desk. I have it in a little stand, the book Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
So that book, it's really interesting, Brian, because I was exposed to that book when I ran my direct sales company, and I really didn't understand the concepts that were in that. And then this guy, Robert, I don't know, some people might have heard of him, that wrote this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It doesn't matter if you, now, of course, his big belief is through real estate. Rich Dad, Poor Dad really, for me, was a mindset book and a shift of what do we know from growing up? And so when we think about our influences and what are the paradigms, which is really a set of mental habits that's stored in the subconscious. A lot of what's locked in our subconscious is from our previous generations. It's from people around us as we grow up. And there really is a lot of fear and lack. And so growing up, my cute little tagline about myself now is, I'm going to be writing a book sooner than later. This is not the title. I say, you know what? I would love it to be Matt Swierk, from Street Rat to Safari Guide, because I grew up on the streets of Boston, right? And we grew up in multifamilies. The first home that my family had owned, referring to my mom and my sister and myself, my mom just relocated to South Carolina a couple of years ago, and that's the first house that our little family had ever owned. So the idea of money, right? With this, we could go on a whole nother conversation about this. We had a lot of misconceptions about money, and especially growing up in in spaces that we were paying the landlord or the property owner every month, and we got behind on a lot of the payments. Well, the property owner, the landlord, was a bad person to us because they were, threatening our living situation. So my perception about money was very, very distorted. And it wasn't until I went through one of the programs we did, Fortune Builders, that really that is business in a box for flipping. And they've moved now into the multifamily space because they understand the value, really, of passive income. And you're right, Brian, flipping and wholesaling, it is a full-time job, right? Now, real buy and hold investing, a lot of people just say, the concept of the mailbox money, it looks cute, it's a great visual. Well, if you're managing those properties yourself, you have to understand that, and that's a job. Now, if you have a property manager, or you work with an amazing company like Bel Air, they're going to take care of everything for you, but you still have to manage the management company. So it's not a complete hands-off, right? And I don't think there really is anything that is 100% passive. So we had to have a shift about how we were using our dollars, and really understanding that money was a tool. So instead of something that I had to chase my whole life, and something that that was always so far away from me, we said, wait a minute, how do people, there's gaps, right? We have the low income, the middle, there's and then the higher levels. Well, what does the quote unquote rich know? What does the rich dad know that the poor dad doesn't know? And everything in life is really studying and understanding, more of who you are, right? Understanding the gifts that God has given you, and apply those into your life to create a life of passion. And that's really where real estate started. So back to your question, I didn't have influences around me. I had an uncle that was a CPA that did fairly well for himself. Everyone else around me was scraping nickels to get by. And when I had set a goal I have an overarching goal, Brian, that we state in the present tense because of the way that we work with our minds, that I am so happy and grateful now that we earn in excess of 108 million in passive residual income through multiple streams of revenue on a consistent basis. So the goal that we create is more about who are we becoming. And the funny thing about that goal is, when I was working with one of my coaches, he said, Matt, I know you're into real estate, and what's the number? What's the number that would satisfy you for passive income, that you could retire from your active job in real estate and all these things you're doing? Brian, I studied economics. I am a math person. I'm a visual person. So when I get into the room with people and we start talking numbers, I am gone after the second number, because I'm like, where does that fall into the equation? So when he asked me this question, I start multiplying, well, X amount of dollars, X amount of profit per door. What does this look like? I did a mental math error, and I said 108 million. And after I got off the call with him, I was like, I cannot believe I stated that goal, because not many people in my family even cracked $100,000. And here I am talking about a passive income goal of 108 million. So as I'm fighting with myself and my limiting beliefs and my inner talk is going on, all of a sudden, Matt says to himself, that was the wrong number. It was $108,000 a year, not 108 million. And then,
Wait, aren't you glad you got it wrong?
yeah, right. Because we were on path to the 108 million, I mean, 108,000, and we're on path towards that. And all my levers, that's my GPS, is towards passive income. And I've done other investments that I thought was passive that didn't turn out. Real estate has always been, that's the horse. That's the horse to bet on. There, like I said, the trend line moves up and down. When you look at it, you're going to get those returns. So we've had to really be around people. You surround yourself around successful people. And that's why I know you'll reject my gratitude towards you, or you'll humbly accept it. You know, sitting down with you and being able to pick your brain and learn what mistakes did you make? How do you play the money game? And I'll always remember from the Landlord Association, I would love when you would run the meetings of talking about how you have a monopoly board, right? And you create the rules and you're consistent about how you do it. And if you don't like how you play your game, you're like, just move on to someone else. And you have created an amazing structure with that principle of how you treat not only the people that are around you in your organization, but also the people that you're supporting with their, their housing and the way that you put your products out there. It's just fascinating, Brian. So I think that answers the question a little bit.
Well, again, I'm blushing here, and I didn't know this would be about me, but thank you. And yeah, man, I hate it when you catch me speechless like that, but thank you. I'm humbled at that comment. And yeah, you do get to create your own reality. Why not, right? Why not? And what we were able to do, we looked at both sides of it, and you got to treat people right, because karma's real. It's right around the corner, and what you do today will come back and visit you tomorrow. But this is not my interview. It's all about you, Matt. So I'm going to would you believe we only got through 2 questions so far? No, I love it. So I'm gonna,
Brian, I do have to jump off for dinner at 7 o'clock.
okay. Well, but, all right. We'll get you there, or I'll order takeout and have it delivered,
Yeah.
because we can do that, right? So
Yeah.
wow, you caught me off guard, put me on the spot like that, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Man, I don't usually get quiet, but all right.
Well, you deserve it, my friend. I mean, and again, when I talk about my mentors and I talk about people that have been instrumental in my life, you 1,000% were one of them. And when, there's not a lot of people in the world, I would say, in property management that have a model that you do. And I know that you've had mentors yourself. And what I always appreciated is you would step in, and I embody this myself with my coaching clients and people that are in my world, Brian, is people that are successful love to share. They love to share, and when I'm part of all these high level masterminds, I don't even know why I ask the question anymore, because I get the same reason. I mean, the same response. And when I ask people, what is the most fulfilling thing that you do? And 98% of the time, it is being able to help others that are just starting off, or that I see that they're facing some of the same challenges that I did. And I can just offer my suggestions of how I did it, and then leave it and say, hey, if you want to pick it up and take it, you can. And I remember, all the resources that you shared, Brian, the first time that I met you, when we sat down, you pulled out your plan that was this thick. And it was so detailed. And I mean, that's an important thing, I think, that we want to highlight right here, right now. Have you? All right, here we go.
Ready? Here we go. Just for the microphone. Ready?
And it's much sexier, because I think it was in a blue binder back then.
Yeah, well, this one's Bel Air. This is the management company, and this one's the holding company. But again, Matt, it's not my show; it's your show.
All right, so I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna talk about this, right? And again, this stems off the same part of the conversation. Really, when we talk about, you mentioned, Brian, of creating creating a life that you want to. And again, so many of us have the limiting beliefs that we can't do that. So when any of the things that I've gone into, especially with the Safari company, when I made the decision to do that, if you go back and you listen to some of the conversations that we've had in our communities, the concept was, this is crazy, this is ridiculous, I can't believe this, like, who am I? Well, I'm now in the process. We own this company and we have 3 tours scheduled for this year. I have a lot of business that's lined up for next year. So thoughts do become things. And going back to the big binder that you had a vision. I had a vision. And even people, when we talk about my wife, I mean, there's so many amazing things about her. She is amazing of casting the vision.
Yeah.
And I don't compare myself to her because that would fall flat on my face. I have my own, resources and strengths that really help us make I'll refer to as a power couple of people saying that to us over and over again. And I'll embody that. And I appreciate that. Well, you need to know where you're going. I had no idea where I was going when I bought that 3-family. I just thought, this is cute. I'm going to have 3 units. Like, yeah, I'm a landlord now. And you've helped me replace that if I'm a property owner and I'm a provider. So it's important that, yes, you need to cast the vision and understand, paint a beautiful picture in your mind. Our imagination is one of the gifts that we have. It's one of our intellectual factors. So when we can use our sensory factors of what we see, we hear, we smell, we taste, we touch, and we can use those in our imagination, now we start to create the vision that we're moving towards. And the more that we can tap into that vision, all of our actions, all of the circumstances, all the people that come into our lives, it's by design. Without that vision, without that plan, it's not going to happen. And we don't need to know all the specific details, because if we knew how to do it, we should be doing it, or else we're going to have a lot of anxiety and things are going to express through our bodies in ways that we don't want, or behaviors we don't want. So I think that's where, when we start to look at, and I'll give a little bit of credit to, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Millionaire Real Estate Investor. I'm looking at the book across, the blue book from Gary Keller. I'm sure I know you have it. It's probably below the starfish, maybe, if I'm seeing it correctly, but no, that's too small. I'm not going to run over and grab my copy. Millionaire Real Estate.
I got the both of them, the investor and the realtor.
And the agent, right?
Yeah, the agent.
So what I thought was interesting about the investor side, now they play in the space. That book is all about really single family investing. And that's a space I never played in. I always wanted the multiples. I thought it was just better to have multiple doors under one roof. I never expected to play the game of, let me time the market and get out when things are good. I truly appreciate the buy and hold aspect of it. The first property that we bought, I said, this is for my daughter, Yudi. We'll never sell that. Well, the market appreciated. We found that the 3, 4s, 5s didn't really pay off for us, and we sold those buildings. Brian, I made one of the biggest mistakes in investing. I got emotionally attached to that building. And when we went to sell it, like, it was a train wreck. I'm like, that was my first one. I can't believe we're selling that. And I'm selling my daughter's future. No, that wasn't the case. I had to shift my perception around it. We just moved on to bigger and better things. And we saw that by the groups and some of the role models we had in front of us.
You leveled up. And again, spotlight back on you. I mean, you keep telling me I did such a great job. Well, okay, so now here we are down the road. This is your show. You're on the podcast and you're giving it all away for free. So whatever I was able to impart to you made a difference in your life. And now I can only thank you for coming onto this platform, where hopefully we can just put it out there to the universe and help somebody else get over that next hurdle. I mean, maybe they're not having the great garlic bread that you and I enjoyed, or the wonderful sauce at Il Forno and all that, but they can take away a meal from this for sure. And all the stuff that you're sharing, like, you started believing that this was the reality, and then that became the reality. It's like, well, wait a minute, whatever I can envision can become that reality. So here you are, full circle, giving it back to everybody else. Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate that. And Brian, what I'm feeling called to say right now is, when I tell that quick story about the Safari company and then question, who am I?
Mm.
And what right do I have being in this space? As human beings, we do not understand that we can change our logic, we can change our belief systems. And the reason why so many people sit on the sidelines, right? If you and I went out and again, different continents, if we went out and we talked to 100 different people today and without getting into too deep of it, we said, hey, how would you like to own real estate and get paid off of, that asset? Most people raise their hand and say, hey, I want to do that. Most people have this dream and they look at the wealthy and they know there's been some connection to real estate and they say, oh my gosh, I would love to do that, but I don't have this. I'm not this. My family's not this. So I cannot tell you how many times I would go to, and this is another great thing of being around success, of being around people in the industry, all the RIAs, all the meetups, all the groups. Like I know you just came back for an amazing event, and I know everywhere you go, you get more and more nuggets, even though, you're at the height of your game, because you're open-minded and you're a great student and a great leader. So I think what's important is that when we start to have an idea that we literally hit this terror barrier, right? It's this, we're in our current conditioning, we're in our current lifestyle. And when we go to break out of it, we hit this wall because the subconscious mind says, wait a minute, I want to keep you safe. You don't have any of these experiences. You don't have anyone that does this. When you go to step out of this, it's going to be difficult. So ego comes in and says, hey, I just want to keep you safe. And we get stuck in our same routines. So I used to sit in rooms, Brian, where people would say, hey, listen, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And I would sit there under my breath and be like, yeah, of course you're going to say that. That's a cute little thing to say. Well, when we start comparing ourselves to other human beings and we don't come from a point of co-creating, of course we're going to knock ourselves down and we're not going to move forward. So I think it's important to understand I live in a world that I co-create with God every day. The second I start to compare myself to other people, that's when things go awry. And the only time I will look to my left and right of other human beings doing something is more for the inspiration that, you know what, if that person can do it, then I can do it. And when my self-image is on point and I believe in myself and I have that confidence, I can set off and do anything, Brian. I can do anything. And that's where I am today of opening up this safari company. That's what I want to do. And when people say like, how did you do this? I said, I woke up one day. I set a goal 5 years ago. I said, I want to go on safari for 2 months in Africa. And I
Wow.
put that goal off to the shelf. Because the mind, when if you take a shotgun approach, just like with any business or anything in life, you take that shotgun approach, you'll hit some things. When you hone in with your laser beam and you're focused on that, it's all coming at you. So I put that goal off to the side, and really where it stemmed from is today I celebrate 19 years of marriage. And for the first 17 years of my life, I'm sorry, of my married life, I put my wife in front of me and I said, happy wife, happy life, whatever you want to do, I'll support you. Now, as you know, and some people that will catch this, if you Google my wife's name and you start to understand who she is, you'll fall over and say, oh, of course, I would follow her. Why wouldn't I, right? She's amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't say that just because I'm her husband. I am in awe of who she is. And I'm so blessed to have her as my wife, my partner, my best friend. Well, for 17 years, Brian, every idea she had, I said, sounds amazing. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. One day she said, Matt, you have given everything to me. I want to see what you want and what you're all about. And I had some codependency issues and I was like, whoa, what does that mean? Well, I went and started to ask my higher self. I said, Matt, like, what is really your passion? Because she said, you're great at coaching, you're great at sales, you're great at analyzing deals, all these things I see you do well. I don't think you're really passionate about it. So when I started to ask myself, what am I truly passionate about? Nature and animals kept coming into my radar screen. So then I launched my imagination. I said, okay, what does that mean? And you will appreciate this. There's a handful of people that can appreciate this. I go back to all those board meetings from being on the board of directors. And what was the last part of the agenda? Let's buy a zoo. Do you
Oh,
remember that?
God. Yeah, they still do.
Oh God. Oh God, right?
Yeah, it still
So
happens.
So that came into my mind. I said, am I supposed to go buy a zoo? Let me tell the viewers really quickly. Brian has run this group for a long time, the Northern Worcester County Landlord Association. Amazing resources, helped to pull that group into a greater group called Mass Landlords that brought all the property owners together to have one voice at the State House instead of having 14 separate little voices.
Yeah.
Great move, by the way. And so when we would, Jan and I had the privilege of being on the board of directors. And when we would have these retreats or these, biannual meetings, even the weekly meetings, that would be the last part. As a joke, it would say, let's buy a zoo. And so, yes, Brian would roll his eyes because like, here we come to the last part of it. So I started thinking about that. I said, am I really supposed to buy a zoo? Or maybe I'm supposed to go work at a zoo, or am I supposed to go start walking dogs? And all of a sudden, my memory got activated. My mind said, remember that goal of going on safari in Africa?
Wow.
I said, yes. I said, you know what? Instead of going for 2 months, what if you owned a company? You could bring friends and family and you go anytime you want to. I woke up one day and I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm starting this company right now. And when a lot of people said, you just did it like that, I said, yes, because anything in life, when you make a committed decision, inspired action is going to take over. And when you have that direction, when you have that goal, or just a couple goals in your radar screen, and you focus on those alone, all the levers are towards what are my passive income opportunities, right? When I have an open mind, I see the open opportunities. So I say, yes, this makes sense towards passive income. When I see investments that there's active side to it, that's not in alignment with my passive income goals. So I really don't go towards that. Even though there were some investments I thought were going to be passive that became very, very active. And I said, I can't look at spreadsheets every day. I'm like, I'm going to go nuts. Like, I'm not going to babysit my money, even though I should. That's like, cut that out. No, I'm just kidding. So,
We'll
yes,
leave it in. We'll leave it in.
be steward of your money. That's very important. Even the people you trust with your blood, sweat, and tears.
So, isn't it wonderful that you can just, out of words and thoughts, come up with a company that you get to enjoy the product and the benefits, creates an income flow, creates deductions to reduce your tax base. You get to share it with people that you love and probably hand it down to your girls someday.
That's the vision. They're not as passionate about the wildlife as I am. But this concept, we won't dive too deep into it, but we really look at this as a worldwide movement. And we have pillars that, really stand on animal conservation, the conservation of the planet, being in alignment with the three planes we live on, which is our spirit, our intellect, and our body. And then, Brian, my big mission that I realized probably about 7 months ago is I feel I was brought on this planet to break inequality and really to help humans break down those barriers. We're so easy to label each other. And when it's all said and done, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, if you're a male or a female, what it is. If you have a pair of pants that you're putting on in the morning, we all put our pants on pretty much the same way. And so that's a big foundation that this travel company is really, it's creating a transformation through travel, opening the hearts and mind and really using nature as a classroom. And I love the example, of taking in some of the coaching that we do about the personal development and understanding human potential and human behavior. And we're using that with the animals. So I always talk about the giraffes, right? The giraffes don't look across the plains and judge each other and say, man, that one has a bigger neck than I do. That one, the spots are more symmetrical. We're using this whole experience to really help touch people in a way that when they go back from, instead of just taking the typical vacation, they have had this transformation that maybe they're going to look at someone a little bit different, that they're going to help them. Maybe they're going to say, hey, instead of throwing that away, I can recycle that. Or maybe instead of going to the buffet, filling my plate to the brim, I'll only eat what I really can. So and that's really what my book will be all about, is coming from someone that was in a space that was looked down upon for the types of clothes I wore, the education I had, the background that I had, the street rat, that again, I look at this, if I can do this, anyone can do this. And again, I wasn't able to do it until I broke those limiting beliefs and I rewrote the version of who I am and who I'm becoming. And that's really what the goals are all about, Brian. The goal is not to achieve the thing. The goal is who are you becoming at that level. So the Matt Swierk of today, I want to integrate my belief and my behavior that I pull levers of the Matt Swierk that does bring in the 108 million in passive residual income. Right? Because if I have that behavior, I say, well, I can't afford that, and I'm going to save money by doing that. I'm not in alignment with who I'm looking to become. I'm literally going to slow myself down, stop myself from what I really want to become and the impact I want to have.
You would limit yourself by a mindset of scarcity instead of abundance.
1,000%, 1,000%. And
You,
I'm gonna grab the microphone real quick, because a lot of people, when we talk about the abundance of the abundance side, you're like, yeah, it's your show, Matt. Go ahead. When we talk about the abundance side, again, when you start to compare yourself and you say, oh yeah, look at the guy, look at Brian, he can do everything and anything, right? He's financially abundant. If you don't have the money in your bank account, you have abundance all around you.
yeah.
Right. When I talk about nature as the classroom, I'm blessed right now. I overlook a lake. So when I look outside, there's an abundance of water. There's an abundance of trees. There's an abundance of sky. There's an abundance of green. There's an abundance when we take our glasses off of the scarcity and we look at it. Yes, it may not be in the bank account right now. There's abundance in all around us. And I truly believe that it is our God-given right to be as abundant as possible, and to really, the money I'm accumulating, I don't need to take that and put that in the side as a Scrooge McDuck and rub my hands with it. I want to take that money and I want to put that into hands that people can do great things with it. Because again, I'll give credit to Gary Keller with that when I first heard this. Money is an amplifier. It's a magnifier. So if you take money and you put that in the hands of someone that has scarcity or has bad intentions, guess what they're going to do with it? If I take that money and I put that in the hands of Brian Lucier, what is he going to do? He's going to put that and he's going to push that out as far as he can and touch as many people as possible. And that's really where we work with all different types of people. Is Yun and I are polar opposites. She's really looking to work with all the leaders, because she knows she can have huge influences within those networks to make a big shift. I look at the previous version of myself, the guy that was stuck, the guy that didn't have a good self-image, the guy that didn't feel worthy. And I said, I want to tap those guys and girls to say, hey, you know what? You can, and all you may need is one person to believe in you. And I'll tell you, that's all it takes. If one person believes in you, because human beings, we will fight for our limiting beliefs until there's no tomorrow. Right?
All day long. It's sad.
And
all day long. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, Brian, if I verbally started with stinking thinking and started beating up on myself, you would jump in as fast as possible and say, Matt, what are you talking about? Right? Because you're not going to fight for my limiting beliefs. You're going to encourage me. You're going to lift me up. So I challenge everyone that I see on a day-to-day basis of, be that beacon. We can be a beacon of light, or we can be an anchor. And do we really want to hold people down, or do we want to let them soar? And do we want to be that example and say, hey, you know what? I love being vulnerable and telling my stories, Brian, because when I open up to people, they're in shock and they say, I didn't know that you guys, I didn't know you took food from the church. I didn't know you went through these different struggles. Now, all of a sudden, they see me in a different way and they said, okay, well, yeah, you know what? Maybe I can do this. I had no idea that where Matt is today is different from from a previous version.
Yeah.
I'm sweating, getting all fired up and getting all excited here.
Good. Then I'm doing my job. So, we compete with ourselves. Like you said, looking to the left, looking to the right. What do the Joneses have? What do the Johnsons have? That doesn't matter. I mean, don't make yourself spiritually or emotionally or physically or intellectually bankrupt, because you can make a difference. I mean, you've given me so many accolades, and people might look and say, oh, wow, he was an overnight success. Yeah, I was a 24-year overnight success. And you have to do all the hard work. You got to do the reps. Like I was lifting up and showing you my 8-pack earlier. You knew me when I was 300 pounds. I mean, that didn't happen overnight. It was one small choice: push the plate away, put something different on the plate, walk a little bit, do a little bit more, do a little bit more. Eventually, you build up momentum. You take care of yourself. You take care of your beliefs. Next thing you know, you're sporting yourself a safari hat and riding a Jeep through the Sahara. Why not? I'm going to jump to our third question, unless, go for it.
Yeah. the last thing I want to, well, not the last thing, the last thing I want to say on this segment is, your overnight success, Brian, that like I want to fall over laughing, right? Because never mind when you were a different physical shape. I remember, and we were just talking about this earlier, I remember you were the guy that was doing the tile in the bathroom and you were doing all those calls. And I'm not gonna, you can block your ears, because like, again, for promoting you. I cannot tell you how exciting it is when I drive. Even this morning, Jan and I drove by, and we usually don't go together, and today we did. And we drove by, and there I am. I see one of the black vans. I see a gentleman, I see it's all lettered up with Bel Air. I see the gentleman get out of the vehicle with the Bel Air t-shirt. I know that's not your only vehicle. So to see where you've been, and again, any entrepreneur, people that own their own businesses, from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, must be nice. They just sit back and collect all the money.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you fight tooth and nail for a long time. You fight tooth and nail for every penny that's there. And, there is we've created this mantra that success is simple and success is easy. And we did that because a lot of people say, hey, success is simple, but not easy. And when we talk about thoughts being things, and what are we speaking out to the world, right? And what are we saying to our higher selves? We said we want to rewrite that. We want life to be easy. We want life to be simple. And so when people say it must be nice, there's been a lot of, I do a lot of programming of my mind over and over and over again. When I wake up in the morning, I immediately go into gratitude. I say, God, I say, I'm grateful for all the gifts you've given me in the past. I'm grateful for all the gifts I'm about to receive. I'm grateful for the ability to be able to impact as many people as I can. That's the first thought I have, Brian. That didn't happen overnight. That wasn't an overnight success.
Sure.
I had to condition myself to be aware of what my thoughts were, that now I'm an unconscious competent. When it comes to when I wake up, immediately I go into that space because I've programmed myself to do that. Let's go on to the next question.
You just mentioned the unconscious competent, and there are 4 stages there. What is it? The unconscious incompetent, where you didn't know that this thing existed. And then you become the conscious incompetent. It's like, okay, Spanish is a language, but I don't know how to speak it. And then you become the competent unconscious, where you have to think, how do I say hello in Spanish? And then eventually you become the competent unconscious, where you just speak Spanish and you don't think about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing goes with anything you want to focus on. Okay. Hey, my real estate peeps. So there it is. That was the end of the first half of Matt Swierk's interview on the Why Not Real Estate podcast, Volume 1. I really hope you enjoyed it. We've got another episode right back to back on this one for the second half of our interview with Matt Swierk. Stay tuned, and I really appreciate you holding on. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.